Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 17th October 2017. GST alters tax exempt status, says diplomat. Now, previously, the expats, the diplomats used to get tax exempt status before buying the goods. It means that they need not pay the tax at the time of purchase. Now, after GST, they are expected to pay the tax and take the reimbursement from the government of India at a later date. So it is increasing the unnecessary paperwork for them. That's what their complaint to the Ministry of External Affairs is. And we have avoid the adventurous path. Now remember this. Many of the economists have suggested for expanding the fiscal deficit and providing a fiscal stimulus to revive the growth. To what extent this idea is good, this is analyzed in this article. Don't go by the statistics. Let's try to understand the concept over here. Now, the fiscal deficit is widened. What does that mean? It means that the government expenditure has increased. Government expenditure can be revenue or capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is productive. If it is revenue expenditure, then it is non-productive. So countries such as UK, they have started ignoring the fiscal deficit size and they are focusing more on the revenue deficit. The objective was to achieve zero revenue deficit, and if the fiscal deficit is widening, the money has to go into the capital expenditure. This is what they are following. India is far away from this because the revenue deficit is widening across the center and the states. As the states are announcing more and more the loan waivers and also pay revisions to the employees, the revenue deficit is expected to go up. And second aspect is, whenever the fiscal deficit increases, then obviously it will add to the inflation. So we have seen the fiscal deficit was low till 2008. Once the recession has come up, we have provided a stimulus. So this stimulus has provided us, has given us an path, or it has given to the inflation. So fiscal deficit is high, it will be associated with inflation. Third thing is, when the fiscal deficit is high, whatever the investment is available, it is taken away by the state. Then obviously will deprive investment for the private sector. As of now, the biggest problem is revival of private sector investment. So in this case, the fiscal deficit widening cannot be a right solution. If the private investment has to be revived, what we have to do? Let's recapitalize the banking sector and provide for liberal loans. And second aspect is decrease the interest rates if possible. And finally, whatever the projects which are stalled, these have to be revived as soon as possible. These are the recommendations this article gives. Lessons from the Oroshi case. So remember here, poor investigation standards, especially among the state police, lack of direction among the CBI. These have hindered the investigation in Oroshi Talwar case, and there is no much important point to be carried forward towards examination over here. Securing Somalia. In Somalia capital Mogadishu, there is a terror attack. So in this context, let us understand few points. Wherever terror factors are growing, the major reasons are governance failure, statelessness, and also the terror elements being close to the power centers. This is the same case with Somalia too. The next is flip-flop on terror. So it is again the Pakistan and its credibility on the terrorism. You know that Mr. Hafiz Syed is known terrorist. There is a bounty of $10 million on his head. And he is kept under house arrest with regard to his role in Mumbai terror attacks. And today, the Pakistan state or government has changed the terror charges to a minor ordinance. So he was previously arrested under Anti-Terror Act. Now he is the charges are being framed against him under Public Ordnance Maintenance Order. So in this case, the bail is available to him. You don't need to remember these acts and ordinances of Pakistan. Just remember that he is going to be left free by the Pakistani state. So why did this change in attitude from Pakistan? The first is Pakistan even today believes that terrorism or perpetration of the terrorism is its state policy. The second aspect is when it has kept Mr. Hafiz Saeed in house arrest, the major problem was the pressure from United States of America, and Financial Action Task Force was also taking its terror financing very seriously. But today, once US started depending on Pakistan again, and quadrilateral coordination group talks have started with Taliban, Pakistan has showed its true colors. So Pakistan commitment with regard to fight against terrorism appears to be dubious. Now, in Japan, parties of little hope. So remember, the Japan Article 9 of the Constitution, it renounces war. There is a debate on the Article 9 of its constitution, and most of the people in Japan, they don't want change in Article 9. But the political parties are looking for Article 9 changes that will make the Japan to interfere through use of force in the global affairs. And it also gets a chance to maintain its military. So, in this context, there is a gap between the aspirations of the people and the leadership is growing. And second, Shinzo Abe has announced the spot polls and snap polls. This has provided an opportunity for him to win the election. The major reasons are the opposition is not united. And second thing is North Korea and fears on aggression of North Korea are growing in Japan. So these need to be understood. And Shinzo Abe's LDP party is set to win these elections. That's what this article says. A dangerous proposition. So here the question is, do we need to change our constitution? If you carefully observe, our constitution has come through a democratic process. And a procedure of amendment is put in place to make it evolve to the changing circumstances. So here, the values of secularism, socialism, individualism, liberty, all these are borrowed from the Western ideals. The revolutions across the world and outflow of these revolutions has influenced making of constitution in India. So, right-wing leaders in India state that these are more Western ideas unsuitable for India. The author argues that wherever the origin of idea is, if it is serving the common good for the citizens, it can be imbibed into our constitution. And second, the Supreme Court of India has clearly stated that the principles such as democracy, secularism, rule of law, these are the tenets or basic structure of our constitution and cannot be amended. So the right wing believes that changing the constitution itself is the way forward rather than going through the amendments. So for them, individualism has to be replaced by community structures. And also, they prefer to have a constitution that has a greater orientation towards society and dilution of parliamentary democracy and providing for greater respect to the religious and traditions of the society. So these religious and traditions of the various groups. So this kind of constitution may not be appropriate to India, and we have seen in today's newspaper that President Pranab Mukherjee has clearly stated India can only be secular, nothing else. That has made this civilization to survive. That is the point we can take out. Out of UNESCO, you know that Israel and United States of America has moved out of their membership from UNESCO. The grounds are UNESCO has allowed for the membership to Palestine. So in this context, 1/4 of the funds to UNESCO are coming from United States, and this can deprive it of its funds. But we can see that many of the UN organizations have survived these threats, and for UNESCO also it is not for the first time these kind of things are happening, and even UNESCO can easily come out of that. That's what this article says. So, in the last page I gave you the notes which will be available at laix.in/civils-prep. So, in Hyderabad, there is a lot of sounds all around because of Deepavali. So, my focus has been deviating when I am recording the video. So, sometimes there are disruptions you can see. Now, happy Deepavali for everyone. Thank you very much.